Hi, welcome to Gypsy Felting. I'm Joyce. Today we're going to be making a large owl, and I'm going to show you how to make the owl and give him little feet, little wings, and how to use wool locks to accentuate your owl and make him really, really awesome. Owls are kind of timeless. They're really popular right now, and they've been popular in the past. So I just think of them as being like always with us, and you can go in lots of different directions with owls. You can make them cute, you can make them kind of wicked or naughty, you can make them sleepy, you can do lots of different things with little owls. So let's get started. Okay, so we're gonna make core shapes. So you take your core and we're gonna roll it into a rough cylinder. So I would say this is probably about maybe a half an ounce of wool. And this is just wool batting. It's pretty rough looking, so don't be alarmed if there's little bits and pieces and things in it. So you're just gonna kind of take it and give it a little bit of a roll and just keep rolling it. The more that you kind of tuck it in and compress it, the easier time you'll have of it. You won't have to needle felt it as much as you would as if you didn't roll it as tightly. You don't wanna get it too tight because you still wanna have a little bit of a bounce in it, but this stuff is pretty bouncy, so just go with that. So this is a good time for multi-tools. Like what you want to do is you want to use more than one needle at a time. There's some commercially available, and then a lot of times I make my own. So you can use a single needle if you have to, but it becomes very tedious. You just would kind of stab all the way around and do the dense jabbing in the middle to get it going. But you can also use a two-pronged, or you can use a three-pronged, or you can use this, what I call the doorknob style, which is supposed to have 6, but I broke a needle, so it only has 5. This one is pretty good. You can kind of experiment and see which needle you'll be comfortable with using. I really like to use my two-pronged needle. I can get a lot done with this two-pronged needle, so I'm going to use that one. Now, just kind of roll it and needle felt it all over. You're doing the dense kind of inner jabbing to kind of very deep and getting all the way through it so that you can hear it into your sponge. And what we're going to do is we're going to kind of make this into a rough snowman shape so that you have like a little bit of an hourglass figure. If you need to, you can always wrap wrap it with more wool or add some more wool. It doesn't have to be really, really firm, and by really firm, like feel your felting mat, and that is really, really firm to me. But we want it to be about halfway between this, really loose and then really firm, because this is you want a nice working surface so that when you go and put stuff on top of it or layer things on top of it, you're not making really big holes into the wool. So it's a little indentation is okay, but you don't want to have like a giant hole. So this is why we make a core shape. So as you felt your core shape, you can kind of think of what kind of owl you want to make. This is the shape that we're going to kind of go for. This is like what I call the barn style owl, what it has the little rounded head. And you can see I needle felted a little bit of a line all the way around so that he has kind of a neck area. This is the body and this is the head. And then I'm also giving him kind of a little bit of a tail feather thing going on here. So I just want him to have like a little bit of a tail starting over here so that when I stand him up, he's not going to fall over. So just kind of needle felt that little area. If you need to, you can add more wool on. Now, if I wanted to, I could make this into a horned owl pretty easily. I would take my chopstick right here, and then I would take some extra core wool and pull some off, and then wrap it in around the chopstick right here into a little bit of a cone. And it doesn't have to be really thick, but just kind of pull it off like that. Give it a couple of pokes with your needle. As always, avoid your hands. So, and then you can attach this to your owl to make him like into a horned owl. So that would be, and once you felt this down, it'll be a little bit smaller. And here's a horned owl shape for you. So it doesn't have to be real big because you could put stuff over this, or you could you'll put layers and things over this whole thing. So this is the horned owl shape. He's got his little tail feather. He sits upright, but he starting to look a little bit more like an owl. So this is a good beginning on your core shape. Okay, so now we're gonna take our little owl shape that we've made the core of, and this one is a horned owl, and we're gonna make a, we're gonna give it a little bit of a face right here, and we're gonna give it a little different kind of belly area. So for this, you can either use your single needle or a double needle, and you can also use the 36 gauge or you can use a 40 gauge. So you might wanna use the finer needle for when you're doing like details on the eyes. So we are going to take the wool, and this wool is, it's not roving, but you could use roving if that's what you have. So what you're going to do is you kind of want it to get it a little bit smooth, and you just kind of place kind of a little bit of a puff of it over the face where you think it's going to go, and then you take your needle, I'm going to put that one over here, and just start kind of working your way around the edges. So as you work around the edges, you're going to see that this will kind of get your face a little bit smoother than you think. Like if you start working in the middle, then it starts to have all these like weird little pock marks and things. But you can just kind of, the needle actually kind of grabs onto it, and it kind of stretches the wool over the face. And this will kind of give the owl's face a little bit of 3 dimensions too, so that when you go to put the eyes in, the eyes are kind of slightly indented, which looks really nice. So just work your way around the corners or the edges, and you can kind of go back and we're needle felting at a little bit of an angle here, rather than like the really deep indentational kind of things that are structural, holding things together. We're going to do like an angle so that we're kind of going in at a little bit of a slant, and you're covering more of these little barbs that are down here. So just keep working your way around. And as you get finished, your face will be really, really smooth. So I'm going to show you how to put the belly in. I'm not going to quite finish that little face, but I'll show you what it looks like at the end. So now if you're going to put in the belly, you can use, I like to use something that's a little bit extra soft. Like this is actually Angora rabbit fur, and it's really, really soft because I think owls should have like a very pettable little belly area. So I'm going to turn him around so he's not quite upside down. And so we can choose, I have gray, I have white, and I think I'm going to do gray just because that way it'll show up better on the white background. So here I'm going to take my 2-pronged needle, and you can still do this with a single needle if you have to. And with the rabbit fur, it might be even better to use a 40 because it is very fine fiber, and the 40 gauge will help it like get down into the core better. So just start kind of poking it, and you're just going to kind of make this into a little bit of an oval. And here you're going to kind of add texture as you go. So as you needle felt, you don't have to worry so much about it being smooth because you can make it either smooth or you can kind of make it textured by just kind of randomly poking it and not really worrying if you're getting like little wrinkles or anything. It just kind of pebbles up just automatically. So the more that you poke the wool in, the firmer it will go. You don't worry that you're going to lose your extra softness, because the nice thing about Angora rabbit fur is that it kind of poofs up when it's done. It has a natural effect called a halo, and if you rub it, it kind of goes, and it'll look like it's all staticky, but it's really fun. You can also use alpaca for here. This would be really nice with a little bit of alpaca, or even just something that's really, really soft. So now we have our little belly area, and we have and if you're worried about the needle marks, which some people don't like these little needle marks that these bigger needles leave, that's why you would use the 40, which I did not use, but I could have used it. So, and these little needle marks, they'll go away if you rub them. You kind of just give them a little bit of a rub, and they'll settle down. They won't be quite so obvious. So we have a good start on our little face. Here's the little owl that, just pretend that eye is not there. I'm going to put the eye in next. Actually, it's going to be there. But so we have the belly area that's all nice and soft, and then we have the nice little heart-shaped face. You could also do a face that was an oval. You know, you can pretty much make that little area however you want. I'm thinking of the natural kind of widow's peak of the owl. So now I'm going to show you how to put an eye in just like that one. Probably the biggest challenge on the eye is having the eye like match the other eye. It takes a little bit of practice. Some people even like to make kind of like a little practice sheet where they have a bunch of little eyes that they've done that you could do on a piece of recycled sweater or something like that. So I like to make my eyes from the inside out. So I start with the pupil and I work my way out. It kind of gives me a little bit of a guidepost to kind of work around. So you take just a little bit of black, and you can always add more if you need to, and you look to where the center of your eye is. I'm going to use the 40 needle and the single needle because I don't need a bigger needle on this because it is very tiny work. And you're going to kind of give it a swirl and a poke. So you're swirling it and poking, and you're also working around the edges, not in the very center of the wool, just around the edge. And you can kind of see as it kind of gets humped up, you can kind of grab it and push it to the side. And this is when it gets a little bit challenging because I can already see that it's a little bit smaller. It's bigger than I need it to be. So pull it out, put it back in. That's why we like needle felting, because we can fix it. So sometimes it's good to work your eyes, do this one and then do the other one. So this one is kind of done so that you can kind of see what the finished one is going to look like. But sometimes you want to work like, don't jump ahead, like don't do that, what I did over here. But I can do that because I'm trying to show you what to do. So now we have it, it's pretty even. So now I'm going to take my next color, and you can notice that I'm not using like a whole lot of color for these. It's just the merest little whisper of color. So this is a pretty, like kind of a bright color, a little bit of gold or yellow, even green or blue would be really nice. So this way you can kind of get the color that you need or get the thickness that you need by working around the outside of the pupil. I'm also going to show you how to do it using it the more traditional way, I guess, of laying down the color first and then putting in the pupil after. So we're going to do it both ways. So just keep working it and keep kind of poking it down. Have a little bit of patience with yourself, because it can be a little bit tedious when you're trying to do something a little bit delicate and a little bit kind of time consuming, but it turns out really worthwhile. So that's a pretty good eye right there. Now you can add just another tiny layer of color just to give it a little dimension. Now this is a brighter gold, and I'm going to put this just like I did this one. I put the darker gold right here, and I'm going to put the lighter gold on the outside edge, just of the outer corner of the eye, just to give it a little bit of dimension. And it's not even something that you might have been aware of until I start putting this down. It's pretty subtle, but it makes a lot of difference in the kind of depth and character of your eye. Look at real eyes of animals. That actually helps a lot. Sometimes my things come out a little bit cartoony or a little bit kind of whimsical looking, and that's okay too. But if you're going for realism, there's nothing that beats like actual reference pictures of actual animals. So, okay, so now we have the two different layers, and then I'm going to go back to my bunny fur, and I'm going to go ahead and put in that little bit of white in the corner of the eye over here. So this is probably too much, but maybe not. Bunny fur has a way of, Angora has a way of like kind of disappearing into the eye. So just watch how it looks like a lot, but it's just going to go right in there. Sometimes it'll just totally disappear and you'll need to grab more. So, and it's just like a little bit of tiny pokes just to get it in there. So now I can take my outer edge, a little bit more black, and we're just going to kind of very delicately go around the corner or the outer edge of this dark gold ring. You can even add like more eye spots if you want to add more rings, or you want to add like a an eyelid, like to cover half the eye and make it a sleepy owl, you can do that. So there's lots of different variations. So just grab another bit more wisp and keep going. So, and then I just need a tiny bit more just to complete the ring. Maybe that's too much, maybe it's not. Oh, look, it's just enough. So now just kind of, you have your eye. Could use a tiny bit more work to kind of get it to where it needs to go. And if you'll find that if you can needle felt around the edge, you can make your lines kind of smaller, can kind of make them thicker by pushing the little bit of gold out into the edge, just so that you get them just perfect. And you know, if it's not quite even, it's a little bit of a quirky owl. You know, owls can be quirky like that. Okay, so we're gonna do a beak now, and to do a simple beak, the simplest beak is probably your triangle. Okay, so take a little bit of contrasting wool, like this is a little bit of dark fiber, and you can just do your little upside down triangle. And then all of a sudden this goes from being just kind of a random little critter with eyes to being an owl. Once again, needle felt the perimeter rather than the kind of the center, and you'll be surprised at how well you can kind of get that shape into there. So this one is the simplest little method of making a little beak. And then I'm going to show you a couple of more that each one gets a little bit more complicated. So that one's a pretty cute just on its own. You've got this little triangular upside down beak there. Now if you wanted to do it a little bit differently, this is a brush needle felting platform, and this one is good for when you are doing kind of flat things. So what we're going to do now is we're going to make an open mouth beak. We're going to take some more of our little fiber right here, and we're going to kind of fold it. This is has some pretty color variation, so this will be a colorful beak. So I'm going to kind of fold it into a little bit of a pattern right here, and I'm going to get my multi-tool. This one is a 5 multi-tool. It's a certain brand. It's Clover brand. It has a guard on it so you don't stab yourself. It kind of goes with this brush. They're both yellow. Okay, so this is really good for doing flat things. That's why I keep this brush around, even though it's kind of noisy and clunky and stuff like that. So you're just going to kind of needle felt your little flat piece of wool right here, a fiber, and you're going to kind of fold it in the edges because you want it to be a little bit thick. So kind of keep folding it and needle felting it, and then just go up and down, work it a little bit, peel it up, turn it over. You can see all your fibers kind of coming out the top right here, and then you're going to needle felt those fibers back into each other. So this whole brush like makes them really great, like you could do whole flat pieces with it. So, but that's a different story. So this is really good. Keep going. Turn it over again, needle felt it some more, and then all of a sudden you have this nice little flat piece of fiber. Oh, it needs a little bit more needle felting. So I'm actually trying, like kind of shaping it as I go so that the tops are kind of coming out a little bit pointy. It might be a little bit hard to see with that. Using my double one, I can kind of grab the little edges. So just so that I'm having some kind of pointy tops and at the ends. You can even take this and roll it into your hands. We remember before that rolling wool in your hand compresses the wool, smooths it out so it's not so crazy and fluffy. You can actually take your scissors and like kind of cut, if you don't get your little triangular beak shapes as much as you want, or those little crazy fibers are driving you crazy, like the random ones that are sticking out. There's no worries. You could just like kind of trim them off. So, okay. So then we're going to pinch this in the middle like this. And then all of a sudden we have like a little open mouth. You guys see that? So get rid of that, bring this one back in here. I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna take this off of there, just like that. Like I don't like that one anymore. And then now we're gonna put our little open mouth one on here. So take your little beak, pinch it in the middle. Maybe that's better. And then poke it down right in the center, all the way through. So with a little bit of practice, you'll kind of get really good at making these little beaks. So that people love the open mouth. So now you have like a little open mouth. And also kind of makes them look like a little bit of a duck, but if you trimmed it some more, it would be better. And you can also kind of point it down. So now he's got a little bit more of an open mouth kind of thing going on. And yet another style of beak, I'm going to pull that right off there. And to demonstrate this one is to do the kind of cone shape. And I'm just going to do this one with my finger instead of using the chopstick. But you just kind of twist some fiber around your finger. So you're making kind of a little bit of a cone. And we're going to stick that right in there with your single needle. Just kind of go around. So this one is somewhere between, like, it's not quite as complicated as the open mouth, but it's a little bit more three-dimensional than just the little triangle. And eventually it'd be good to leave one of these here so he has like a little beak. So that's 2 or 3 ways to make like a little beak. So now that one sticks out just a little bit more than the others, but it's still pretty cute. So I'm going to show you how to do the feet now of the owl. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some pipe cleaners. Now, these are actual real pipe cleaners, and these ones are special ones that have stiff bristles on the surface of them. So they actually kind of help by grabbing onto the wool as you wrap it. So this one, they kind of are short a little bit, and you want to cut this 1/3 of the way down. So kind of about there. I have another one. I just want to make sure it's the same length. So cut that right about there. You can use wire cutters or just regular scissors. They're not that tough. So what you're going to do is you're going to take it and you're going to shape this one into a V and then bend it around the middle pipe cleaner or the other one. Ouch. These hurt just a tiny bit if you're poking yourself because they do have those little stiff bristles on them. So just kind of get this adjusted so that you have kind of your little foot. And we'll go ahead and wrap this one again. So just kind of wrap it around. Takes a little bit of trial and error to get it kind of matched up just right. And then what you're going to do is we're going to wrap this in with our wool roving. I'm going to use black because black is really nice and contrasty, and you could also use, say, yellow or brown if you wanted. So you can wrap this from the top down, and you don't have to wrap the whole part of it. You want to leave like a little bit exposed, just because that's going to be up in the bird's body. So you start wrapping all the way around, and when you come down to these little toes, you're going to kind of crisscross them. So you're going to kind of go this way, go all the way to the end, cover the end, and turn it in your hands just like this. And that's going to actually grab a whole lot of it. You really shouldn't have to do a whole lot of needle felting with your needle. That's one of the beauties of this. You can also like totally skip this step and just get colored craft chenille stems that are already colored and nice and soft and things. But I kind of like to wrap them with wool. I think they look better. So you're just going to keep wrapping it with random bits of wool. You're going to go back onto your sponge right here, and you can actually needle felt around the edges. This is where you want to be careful about hitting the wire because you could break your needle. So just needle felt it around, and of course you'll do it a lot smoothly until you have something that resembles like these little guys instead of like those random ones that I was doing over there. So now we're going to take our little completely covered wool little feet. Don't worry about bending them into shape. They look really kind of, you know, dead bird like right now, but we're going to bend them into little shapes and stuff. They'll be better in a second. So now we're going to attach these to the body of our bird. So you're going to do a little bit of surgery on this body. Don't be alarmed. You're going to cut into the wool. So just kind of be careful with your scissors. Don't worry if you're cutting like kind of up into your bunny fur. You can fix it. So just kind of give the wool a little bit of it's tough stuff. So don't be surprised if you find out that this is a lot tougher than it looks. It's because it kind of is. I was surprised. It's sticky stuff. So just want to kind of cut a little bit of a hole into there. And then you're going to stick that uncovered end of the pipe cleaner way up in there. Now, if you're worried about this, you can totally put a couple drops of glue on the end and then stick that up there. But you really shouldn't need it. That's the kind of the nice thing about needle felting is that you don't really need the glue. It just holds on to itself. So get them even, kind of get them up there and kind of bend them. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take more core wool and we're going to go around this and we're just going to kind of needle felt them into place. So I'm going to use my single needle just because I can control it a little bit more. So just kind of needle felt some extra core wool into the bottom and needle felt around your feet. You can see that I've done this kind of on the upper side of just below the belly, but not in the middle of the body. So you want to kind of be more towards the edge of over here. If you want to, you can start using you can use your double one too, if you have a double one. So these little feet actually will be pretty firmly attached. You can kind of give them a little bit of a tug to see if they're attached. If they feel a little bit loose, just kind of needle felt them some more down into there. The wool on the outer edge of the black is actually getting it up in there into the core wool, and it's all kind of needle felting together. So then you have your little chickie, your little owlet with feet. So, and you can take your chopstick and you can curl your little toes. I don't really need that. You just curl your toes around the chopstick so you can give it a little bit of a realistic bend. Sometimes these little feet are fun because they come out in unusual ways. I've had ones like stick totally up like this, kind of stick them up like these, kind of really cute like that. Or you can stick them down so they can stand. Sometimes they don't really stand so well, but they are really cute. So this is how you attach the feet to the body. So we've been creating our owl, and now we have this cute little guy right here, and he's got his little belly fur going on, and he's got his eyes and his feet and his beak. I'm starting to cover his head with the curly locks. So what I've done is I've given him a little contrasting kind of some eye tufts right here, and then I'm going to cover his head with this beautiful curly mohair. So I take a wool lock, kind of just take them and kind of separate them out until they're a little bit thin so you can kind of see through them. And this is good. Just shake them out a little bit. Sometimes you get a little bit of the kind of barnyard stuff going on in there, or you can pick it out by hand. Hopefully there's not too much, like this one's pretty clean. And then you just kind of needle felt the curly coating down into the core wool. I'm gonna stop right where I want where the head meets the body, because I'm gonna use a different wool for that part. it's not necessarily going to get seen a whole lot because we're going to have a wings and tail feather over that area. So I do want to cover the head really well. Like, you don't want to show any of the core shape from the core wool underneath the curly coating. So you really want to kind of get this well in there. You don't have to needle it to death, but you do want to kind of needle it firmly all over. I'm using the 2-prong needle because it makes everything go faster. So I see a little space right here underneath the tuft, so I'm just going to put a little piece of curly mohair right in there. This is really pretty mohair. It's very nice. It's all naturally colored. Sometimes when I'm doing these owls, I'm always drawn to like make everything very naturally colored. It's cool. You could also do like a really colorful kind of parrot version of this same thing if you wanted to. So now we're going to take, we've got his head totally covered, and we're going to cover the rest of his body so that we don't see any core wool. I'm going to use this Icelandic for that. It's got long, long strands right here, and I'm going to cover this part all around. So it's just like putting a coat on. That's why we call this part the coat. So just needle felt the brown part where the top of the locks are, and it's okay because you're going to have some of this is going to kind of poof out over this way, and that's okay. It'll just, when he's sitting down, he'll just have kind of a little trailing bit of fur going on. So you could also, like, if you don't have these long locks, you could totally use something else, like you could use more bunny fur or some alpaca, like this nice brown alpaca would be good, giving him a really nice, pretty contrasting coat. But it doesn't matter a whole lot because we're going to put wings over this. So we're just going to kind of want to cover the needle, the core shape right now, and not really worry too much about how the wings are going to look. So don't be afraid to come back and kind of patch the areas. You probably have the little tail feather area over here, and we're going to cover that in a different section as well. So now your little owl has a cute little coat. He's got his head covered and he's got his little body coat on. So he's ready to go. Now we got to give him some wings and a tail. All right. Okay, so now we're going to take our little owl and we're going to give him a little bit of an overcoat, and we're also going to build the wings and the tail feather area so that we can put him together. So first, let's build the wings. So you want to take some of those locks, whatever ones you've picked, and this is their kind of a random mass right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to take them and we're going to kind of pull the really good ones and just separate them so that we can get them kind of all lined up. So I've got a couple right there. Don't worry if sometimes debris and stuff like falls out of these little locks, because these are less processed than maybe the roving that you're used to working together. So we're just going to take a couple of locks and we're going to kind of give them all lined up. So we have them from the cut end to the tapered end, and you can usually tell that pretty easily with most locks. Which end is which. It might take just a little bit of practice. And so once you feel like you have kind of a nice little wing shape build up, and you have all of the cut ends at one side and the tapered ends at the bottom, what we're going to do to build our wing is, and that one's just kind of cute. I'm just going to include that over there. We're going to needle felt up at the top. So I'm going to use the 2-1. You could also do this on your brush. If you had a brush, would be good because it's a flat thing. So, and we're just going to kind of needle felt up here at the top. We don't want this whole mass to be solid. We just want it to kind of hold together a little bit. But this is going to be our kind of little wing shape, and you kind of round it off, and it can even be tapered. Now, if you find another lock that you just kind of want to throw in there, like on the edge, you can add another little bit of fiber. You're like, oh, that's not thick enough. I want a better one. So. And once again, if you're you need to make 2 of these. So you kind of make them so that they match, kind of look at them and see if they're symmetrical. So see how this little mass is held together right here? Just pick out any kind of debris if you see anything big or obvious vegetation. So, and just needle felt a little bit all over. So now we have a nice little solid wing, and we're going to kind of set that aside and make the other one until we have two. So I've got two little wings that I've made, that I've made previously. So these are my little wings. These, I think of them as little angel wings because that's what they kind of look like to me. So we're going to take our wings and set them aside while we cover the body. So now if I was going to get ready to attach my wings, I'd take my little angel wings over here. That one, got these two, the two that kind of match. And you can either attach the wings like there, you can put them up over the back like this, or you could put them flat against the, like you could even put them in front a little bit, like he looks like he's mantling or something like that. So what you want to do is just kind of poke it in the armpit over here. Wherever you decide to attach it, it's going to kind of, that's where it's going to be. So this way you kind of get the little hump of the shoulder, and you can also kind of attach it a little bit back here along the one edge. So you kind of see how it's making a nice little wing shape under there? And you want to tug on it until you needle felt it until it's not going to come off easily. Like I can easily pull it off. So obviously I haven't done it enough. Because I'm lazy, I'm going to go back to my 2-prong. I can work faster that way. 2 prongs work very fast. So that way I'm tugging on it and it doesn't want to come off, so it's doing pretty good. It's kind of fun to have a little flapping thing going on. So however you want to position your wing, you can be consistent on the other side, or you can be quirky and not be consistent. It's totally up to you. I like symmetry, so I'm going to do the same thing I did on the other side. Okay. So we're just going to pretend that he's got 2 wings now, and then I'm going to show you how to do the tail. Now the tail area, you can either make kind of a 3rd wing if you wanted to, or you could just take locks and kind of put some locks around the edge. So sometimes the 3rd wing option is pretty good. So if you just kind of give him a little bit of a tail feather area, attach it the same way that you would attach it to the kind of the wing, except not quite so underneath in the armpit. This is where your little tail nubbin comes in handy. Now if you wanted to, you could totally fill in all this other area with locks if you wanted to. Ideally, it might match the color of the wing so that it wasn't quite so noticeable, but this is a good start on this. So thanks for watching me today. I'm glad that you learned how to make one of these little fluffy owls using wool locks and various fibers. Now, if you are interested in yourself making one of these owls, but you don't want to have to gather all the different kinds of fibers, well, guess what? I have done it for you. I have assembled a really nice kit where you get specialty locks. You even get like maybe Angora bunny fur or alpaca. You even get my special 2-pronged needle I've been using and a single needle for details, plus your foam. So this is all available at my Etsy store, and you can follow the link below to get your own owl kit and make your own owl today. Now, if you like this video, please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Gypsy Felting, and don't forget to come back for more adventures in needle felting. Thanks.